events, you're supposed to be filming us and stuff that we're doing, not just standing there and holding it. I could put it on the suction cup if I was going to do that.
Well, you didn't clarify.
Oh, you're I'm in your son. Yeah.
Well, Sid, let me tell you, this sun deck right here, great nap spot.
Yesterday is gone, forget about tomorrow and the ceilings you see right through. Find the moment and make it. Write your headline and raise it to the sky. No one else can create it. Take your banner and raise it to the sky.
We didn't have a lot of options because, as we've explained before, we don't know how to sail.
No.
So, getting the boat from Tortola to Florida was going to be a challenge no matter how we sliced it. The other thing that we had to deal with was the fact that it was hurricane season. So, insurance was also a problem.
Not that they didn't want to. They didn't want to do it at a good price.
Right.
So we got quotes between $10,000 and $15,000 for the insurance.
Which was basically just a short-term policy.
For a week or two, just to get it here with the professional crew and captain. So that didn't count the captain or the crew or provisions or extra fuel or flying them back to wherever they needed to go. That was just the insurance. So we thought that's wear and tear on the boat. We'd have to then, hurry up and find somebody that could move the boat, risk leaving it in Tortola through the rest of hurricane season, which we didn't want to do either.
No, not really.
And at the end of the day, the best option was actually just to put our boat on a ship. So that's what we did.
So we contacted several transport companies and got a very wide range of pricing, anywhere from upwards of $40,000 to the most reasonable and actually one of the best groups that we worked with ended up being $18,500. Ouch.
Which is still a lot of money.
Which is still a lot of money, but if you consider the insurance policy alone was going to be about $15,000, and then you still had the captain, crew, and provisions and fuel, you were going to be at or more than that anyway. Not to mention the fact that from the point in time the boat actually got picked up out of the water and put on the transport ship to the point in time it arrived in Florida, it had insurance from the transport company. So we had
insurance once it was in U.S. waters.
Right.
So that was already set up before it even left Tortola. We actually had a live insurance policy for that. It was just waiting to get it on the ship. And the crane picked it up right out of the water and then put it on top of the transport ship, and they sent it from Tortola straight to Florida.
And the transport company actually was great. They sent us kind of proof of life pictures.
Right.
So we actually got an email that actually showed a picture of our boat on the transport ship, along with a couple of other ships. I think there were 3 in total that came on that transport ship. Sydney was in Denver for Thanksgiving, so she wasn't able to be with us. So I promised her that we would FaceTime her, and I almost forgot to do it.
But Maddie had it handled.
Maddie had it handled because she was still with us. It was before she left to go into the Navy. So
they dropped it in the water, and we climbed on it, all excited to see our boat again.
And I cried because I was excited.
Well, no, we didn't make our haul out, and 2, we didn't have a plan. So 3, we just figured it out as we went along.
So back up to the haul out. So the reason we didn't make the haul out is because the catch-22 is the boatyard is actually right next door to the port where the transport ship dropped our boat.
Like
so
200
we
yards.
were so close. The problem was, in order to fit into the slip to be able to get hauled out, we have to come in at high slack tide. The transport ship was delayed due to weather and did not arrive into the port of Palm Beach.
4 hours too late.
It was 4 hours too late. So we were not able to make the haul out because we missed high slack tide, which we didn't have a plan. So
I'd say we could have anchored the boat out in the harbor, which would have been fine. But we didn't have a dinghy yet because we were planning on taking it off the ship and putting it in the
right on
yard.
the hard.
And we were going to need a dinghy for a couple months, so we didn't buy one. So we had no way to get off the boat.
After exhaustive phone calls to places that we looked up on Google Maps to find some place that might be able to put us on their dock for a few days where
And
we could
it's
plug
high
in.
season, so everything's always full
And-
months in advance.
Yeah, so I was able to get at right next door Marina Village here at Riviera Beach. It's a city dock.
It's nice.
It actually was very nice, and they were able to put us into one of their spaces that could accommodate a boat our size. So it was just a space that somebody else was going to be coming into that we only had a couple of days to be at. Unfortunately, it was not enough time for us to be able to stay until our high slack tide resurfaced again to be able to come into Cracker Boy to do our next available haul out.
They only do haul outs at the boatyard during business hours, during high slack tide for boats our size.
And they had to have an appointment available. So there was a multitude of factors that played into that. None of those things fell into our favor for about 12 more days. So we had to make a decision what we were going to do. We decided to go ahead and move the boat from the marina after having been there for, I think, 3 days is what we ended up
We
being
were there for 3 days, and we checked everything that we could while we were on the dock, and then
did some cleaning of the outside of the boat. We got the power washer out. We got some of that salt off of her and everything from her transport from the BVIs to Florida.
we added some more water in the tanks. We
Got the heads pumped out just in
heads
case.
pumped
More
out,
fuel.
Yeah, so we just to be sure that everything was good to go. So from there, we went out the port of Palm Beach inlet, and we motored it north about 4 hours up to Jupiter. And
Which, by the way, we found out that
it's one of the most dangerous inlets in the state. It's extremely narrow.
So we knew we had to go in to the Jupiter Inlet at high slack tide again because it is a very narrow inlet and there are constantly problems of boats, more so in monohulls than catamarans, but boats crashing because you've got sandbar on one side and you've got rock on the other side. So it's very treacherous.
And you have to, the reason the tide is important is because if the tide is going out and the waves are crashing in, you have a difference in water height and it creates a bunch of turmoil. And you want to go in when it's high tide and the ocean, everything is calmed down with the current, so that when you transition from the Atlantic Ocean into the intercoastal, it's a nice smooth transition except for the few rolling waves that are coming over the jetty. So. And we timed it exactly at high tide.
Exactly at high tide, and it went very smoothly. We were extremely nervous. I was watching our depth gauge fervently while Ty was amazingly...
Well, we had loose steering, and we didn't know we had loose steering. So the cables were loose, and I don't know why they were loose, but you'd have to steer like a third or half a turn to just go from left to right. So if you made a minor adjustment, you had to shuffle steer the steering wheel for 4 solid hours. Now you can steer it with one finger.
Pretty
awesome.
Crazy at the time. So we didn't know what we didn't know, which was probably stupid, but kind
Probably
of
a
fell
good
into
thing.
our best interest.
We
at
were
that
scared
particular
enough
time.
as it is. I'm glad we didn't really know.
Right.
Yeah.
We know better now.
But the drawbridges were cool. We went through two drawbridges.
And we maneuvered the drawbridges
with our radio,
so
which is fun.
That was fun and exciting. Got ourselves positioned at Peck Lake, which is in the intercoastal.
Up by Stewart.
up by Stewart, which is close to where Ty's mom actually lives. So we would be able to be close to relatives and be able to come back and forth to check on the boat. We had more people around us that had access to
Our
boats.
friend Tal came and picked us up the first day. We motored up there. We got it set, anchored, and he came down with his boat and picked us up and brought us back to shore. And then the next day or day after, we ended up getting our dinghy so that we could go back and forth.
It was just a super convenient place for us to anchor the boat in this 12-ish days between when we got the boat off the transport ship and got it to Cracker Boy. So apparently there's something in the sailing world about, there's two kinds of sailors, those who run aground and those who lie about it. We ran aground.
But we did it on purpose. So when we got the boat, we knew that there was a small issue with the starboard prop, but with us driving it around, maneuvering it, driving all the way up to Peck Lake or motoring it up to Peck Lake, we really didn't have any issues. We anchored, everything was fine, but it was shallow, and we got it at not the best time that we thought to anchor, and we wanted a better set. So we decided to go back the next day. We went back out to 2 days later to go reset the anchor, throw a little bit more scope out, some more chain out, and make sure that we weren't going to drift or drag into any of the other boats. There's about 6 or 7, 8 more boats that were there.
Like that.
And what got us nervous was we were on the north side of the mooring field, and the wind was blowing from the north, which means that our stern was pointed towards the other boats. And when we pulled up the anchor to reset again, we lost control of the starboard
Prop.
We were getting no thrust. So we had a pretty stiff wind and one engine and no experience operating a catamaran or any boat in an anchorage field, because I'd operated plenty of boats, but all of them were on docks, on and off of docks and trailers. So we started spinning, and we were spinning and drifting towards a big field of other boats. And I grew up in that area when I was younger, and I'm familiar with the waterway down there, and it's and what the banks and the shores are like, and they're very sandy, very soft sand. There's no hard ground.
No.
And it's a kind of a cool way that it drops off. It's shallow for about 7 or 8 feet, and then it drops very steeply to, I don't know, 5 to 7 feet deep. So I knew that if I had to, that I could put the nose of the boat up on the beach. So we did that. We wanted to make sure that we weren't going to run into anybody else, and we needed to get into a position where hopefully I could stand and underwater or get down underneath and take a look at that prop. So we turned her to east, and we motored very, very slowly right up onto the sand beach, and gave her a little nudge, and we got the bows kind of up and nested in the sand, but we were still really floating. And we were just kind of hinged off of our bows. So what we ended up doing was tying a bow line off, because the wind was still blowing from the north and projected to do so for about a week.
Yeah.
So we tied the bow off on some trees, and then we threw a stern anchor out off of our port side.
So we did have the backup anchor, which was nice, and we actually were able to secure it with some lines, with some of our dock lines, and we actually took the dinghy out, and Ty was able to basically get that anchor set in the sand.
Oh, and it's set.
And it was set.
Yeah.
To be able to secure the stern of the boat so that we weren't going to drift sideways at all. We were going to stay or off the beach. We were going to stay right where we were at, which made us feel the safest that we possibly could, not only for our own boat safety, but for the rest of the boats in the anchorage, so that we weren't a danger to them or ourselves. Now, we didn't feel comfortable leaving the boat that night.
No, we were unbelievably stressed out.
So we ended up
nervous, sick.
Very nervous, very sick to our stomachs. So we ran to the store, took the dinghy, ran to the store, grabbed some just quick things that we could microwave.
We left the girls on the boat, I don't know what they were going to do.
No, you stayed on the boat.
Did I stay on the boat?
Yeah, Sid and
That's
Maddie and I
right.
left to go to the store so that we could pick up some food, grab a change of clothes, some blankets, that sort of thing, pillows, so that we could stay the night on the boat and have a few comforts of home, so to speak. And that was a disaster.
Miserable.
Because the way the wind was blowing, the water was actually lapping and slapping up against the aft of the boat, which is where we were sleeping. And so all night long, all we heard was that slapping on the boat, and it was impossible to sleep. But our dinghy was great.
It was awesome. And yeah, so there you go.
So keep in mind, in amongst all this time, the boat arrives around Thanksgiving. We moved it, so we're getting closer and closer to Christmas. We actually had some friends that were taking a pre-Christmas trip that came from Denver. They're some of our food truck friends, and they came in. It was Jason and Amy and their little boy Lincoln, and then Amy's parents, Barb and John.
Hi,
and
guys.
They came and spent a few days with us, and actually ended up deciding to extend their trip with us because they were having so much fun hanging out and doing what we do.
It was fun.
So we were kind of chilling in the pool at the house that we were staying at, and Amy actually has a childhood friend that she grew up with that lives here in the West Palm Beach area with her husband and their little boy, and she wanted to come and visit Amy and Jason and Amy's folks and Lincoln at the house that we were staying at. So we said, why not? Let's come on over. We'll have a barbecue or whatever. We'll just hang out at the pool. It was a great day to do it. So Gretchen came, and we started talking about our adventures and everything else. And
we didn't know anything about Gretchen.
Gretchen ended up sharing with us that her husband is actually a boat captain
with a
on
crew.
a monohull with a crew. And, well, why doesn't she just call her husband and they'll just help us get the boat moved to Cracker Boy? Because they were actually on the other side of Cracker Boy at Rybovich with their boat, having work done on the boat that they crew at Rybovich. So we have a big beam on our boat, and what that means is there are fewer and fewer slips that you can actually get this boat hauled out at. Cracker Boy is one of them, and they
do the work yourself at the yard.
Correct. So Cracker Boy is one of them. However, for a boat our size, we literally have about 5 inches to spare to get hauled out. So we can't even take fenders and collapse them down because there still isn't enough room for them. So we had to use carpet as our guard on the side of the boat to try and protect the boat from the dock, the slip on either side.
So you take a boat that half works, well, one prop works, in the wind and opposing current, into a slip with 5 inches that you've only ever driven once or twice, and
just come off of a major stressful experience.
Yes.
Having run aground.
And you have a short window of time to be able to do that, and you have to drive the boat into the slip without running into concrete piers and giant angle iron, and it's
just your everything.
It's just scary.
So fast forward to Gretchen and her husband Greg.
Thank you guys so much.
Gretchen hands Ty the phone, and Greg and Ty ended up talking, and Ty explained our situation, explained the whole deal, and Greg was kind enough to actually say that he and his crew could come over and help us on the morning of our haul out, and they could get us into the slip. So Zach and Casey and Greg were here, and then our friends Jason and Amy came along for the adventure as well, just to have extra hands for any lines or anything like that.
And the girls were here.
The girls were here. They came and were on the dock side of everything so that they could be ready.
Sydney made it back from Colorado.
Sydney was back from Colorado. So everybody was kind of like in place. Greg was in his dinghy, and he was going to handle the starboard side if something went haywire on that side, and he needed to use his dinghy as kind of the bumper car.
Kim was in the other dinghy.
And then Ty told me to go jump in our dinghy and try and be on the port side in case something happened, and I needed to be on the other side to do any sort of bumper cars on that side of the boat. So I kind of had the back end of the view and tried to get some video of that while the boat was being maneuvered by Zach into the slip. And then Casey, of course,
made it look really easy.
They were fantastic. They came up on the south side of the dock and actually let the wind push us very slowly, and I mean it was amazing to watch. I never would have thought of doing it this way, but it was perfect. He just kind of let the wind push him until he got to the point where the wind kind of stalled, and then he had to use the engines, and he kind of pushed forward and basically just gently glided right into the slip. And the guys here at the boatyard were fantastic and very quick in getting the lines moved, and the carpet got a little bound up on the port side as it came through, but it wasn't anything that hurt anything, and we were able to push right off.
It was good. We didn't get any scuffs, right any nicks, scratches. I mean, there's a couple scuffs on the boat, but we didn't get anything new.
No. We had to clean this boat. So she was filthy on the inside. On the outside, we had already kind of power washed the outside off from her transport over from the BDIs.
Yeah.
But inside was a disaster. So we came in with our cleaning products, and
we went over every surface of the boat, and it was just, yeah, it was just, you know,
it was a charter boat. So it was just dirty, and I don't think that once it got to the point where it was going to be sold out of charter that it really ever got cleaned very well.
No, and then some people were living on it and using it, and it was just different. Sid cleaned. Oh man, did she clean all the showers and
all the heads like crazy. I think it took me about 5 hours to clean these cushions on the salon couch, the walls, the headliner, the windows.
Yeah, we cleaned everything.
We just scrubbed inside all of the drawers. Whether or not we were going to tear them out in the galley, reef it or not, we cleaned everything inside and out.
And because we were planning on living on the boat and working here, so we had to get a start, just get a clean slate. So that's what we did. Clean slate, cleaned the boat, and then started to make our plan towards what was going to come next.
So we decided the best way to start was to start the new year. So we moved in to the boat officially on New Year's Eve and moved everything in and went to town putting stuff away.
Well, then we went to a New Year's Eve party.
Then we went to a New Year's Eve
And then
party.
the next day we came back and started again. Well, we came home that night, and then...
So we slept our first official night as liveaboards on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Ready? Hey guys, thanks for watching.
Keep up to date by following us on Facebook and Instagram.
If you'd like to help support our videos, head on over to our website and click on the Join the Crew page, where you can click the one-time donation button for Buy Stella a Bone, or you can become a member of our Patreon.
And to keep following these adventures, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and leave a comment down below. It really, really helps us out. Bye. See you next week.
No one else can create